Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, my. All kinds of stuff going on. And a good morning to you. Indeedy, it's Friday. These Fridays just keep rolling along. Oh, my gosh. And it's an awesome one for me because my son is turning 21 today. Oh, heavens. I'm sure all parents have the same reaction. How the hell did that happen? My sister called last night and said, well, you got him to majority. Right. And now I throw him to the wolves. Gosh, 21. Remember how old you felt? How on top of things you felt? Maybe not. Jess says no. But, I look at 20. It's so funny how relativity of age. And the older you get, the more, people of a certain age, lower than your numerical number is numerical number. They look so young. So incredibly young. And 21 looks like I remembered 14 looking. But it was ever thus, I am sure. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It is. I remember my mom looking, when she was in her 80s, saying, I look in a mirror in the morning and I say, who the hell is that old lady? Because she said, inside, I feel exactly like I did when I was 18. And that's the thing about growing old that really freaks you out, that you're still this same person. It's just the shell that we're in that's deteriorating and altering and showing ourselves to have been here for a while. But it also shows that this corporeal part of us, the skin that holds us, our organs in, the bones, all that kind of stuff, that the machinery that is us, that it isn't us. It's just that casing. And that we're in there somewhere in this, I guess that's what the soul is. But so our souls don't age, really. That's why you can sometimes say of young children, he's an old soul. Because some children have that quality about them, like they seem just a little wiser than they're supposed to be, or like they're carrying something, you know what I mean? I don't mean to get all new agey on you, because I really am not. But such things rattle around in one's brain when one's little baby turns 21. So, a lot going on. I'm going to get to this filibuster fix that didn't happen, and I'm very annoyed, very let down, very disappointed. I just don't think that Harry Reid and the others who are inside the bubble of the Senate, I still don't think they get it. I don't think they get how those of us looking in to the bubble are simply disgusted and appalled. And those of us who pay a little more attention than the average American are nearing the pulling out our hair stage. The Senate has hampered itself. The Senate, with its arcane rules, and then the flagrant sort of violation of what the original filibuster was and how that came to pass. You know, the filibuster, as we know it in our collective hearts, is Jimmy Stewart, right? Standing up there and holding the Senate, holding it, stopping it in its tracks with the sheer power of his ability to stay on his feet, stay coherent, and keep talking. And that was what a filibuster was. How the hell it became something that a senator lying in his bed in Chevy Chase can phone in a filibuster and everything comes to a halt. The Senate is not the Senate it used to be, and there needs to be a much greater push to reclaim the Senate that used to be, because that Senate functioned. We have a near dysfunctional, let me jettison the near. We have a dysfunctional House of Representatives in the control of a party that is struggling to even keep its people in one tent, and it's a very tiny little tent and getting tinier by the minute. And you've got a bunch of loons in the tent, and they care nothing about the business of the House. They see it as their business to deny the House the ability to do anything. So you've got these absolute obfuscators, these intransigent Republicans in both houses, pretty much preventing government, at least the legislative branch, from functioning. Now, that's fine if you're a Republican, because Republicans hate government. They don't want it to function, I guess. But we need government to function. And the American people are on to this now. Not as much as they need to be, but they're on to it. They're seeing it. You see it in the poll numbers about their high regard for Congress. I want to talk about something else that is scaring the bejeebers out of me. And it's scaring a lot of other people, too. And it has to do with the fact that the Republicans, as you know, are in disarray and have suffered a pretty humiliating electoral defeat at the national level. And a lot of pundits have told the Republicans, you guys are going to be put on the endangered species list real soon, right around the corner, unless you realize that you are demographically close to dead. So the Republicans, who still have a functional head, know this is true. That all the growing demographics are identifying with the Democrats. And the only folks that seem to be identifying with the Republicans are old, and they're white. They're also overwhelmingly male. And if you look at the electorate, we all know that that's just not the way it's made up. That ain't the recipe anymore. So what do Republicans do? Republicans, I was saying this yesterday, they are nothing if not indefatigable. They are nothing if not clever in the ways that they manipulate whatever powers they have. And one of the things that they have done as they have grown increasingly sort of invisible at the national level is they have become increasingly visible at the state level. So that a lot of states are totally under the control of the Republican Party, with a Republican governor, Republican House, Republican Senate. And what's amazing is that many of those states voted for Barack Obama. This is something I rail about quite a lot. The reason this can happen is that Democratic voters only seem to wake up and vote every 4 years. If they voted in all those little teeny elections in which state representatives and state senators were chosen, you wouldn't have people who identify more with the Democratic platform living in states that are totally controlled by Republicans. It's not that they believe in some kind of split government. It's that they're not voting. The Democrats aren't. And they're not paying attention. This has got to stop. So the Republicans that control these states that vote blue but are red have got a great idea. Perfectly legal idea, too. And we've talked about it before. But you can see the speed with which they're trying to pull it off. We are in one of those states. Pennsylvania votes the Democratic presidential candidate. Pennsylvania is now thoroughly in the hands of the Republicans at the state level. We join a state like Wisconsin. We join Virginia. We join Florida. We join Ohio. All of those states, Republican governors, Republican legislators voted Obama. So I'm sure you've heard about this. The Republicans have figured out that because they control the states, and because they control the states, have gerrymandered the districts, the congressional districts, so that Democrats get dispossessed and Republicans get elected. They have figured out another way to rejigger the system so that even though they're demographically in decline, even though the American people clearly are going in the other direction, they can still, if their rejiggering works, they can still take the national elections by virtue of the power of their state legislatures. Here's how they're going to do it. Josh Marshall, who I think is one of the smartest, he does Talking Points memo. I think he's one of the smartest observers of our politics. He put out a piece yesterday called "This is a Big, Big Deal." And then he says, we got to pay attention fast. He says, is something like this actually possible? That they can, if they can't win with the rules that we've all been playing with for ever since I can remember, can they change the rules so that their candidate will win even if the people have chosen the other party's candidate? And Josh Marshall says, without a doubt, it is very possible. Okay, so just in case you haven't been paying attention, listen to here's what they're doing. As you know, we got this thing called the Electoral College. Drives me crazy, but for whatever reason, there it is, and the Founding Fathers put it there. Now, the way the Electoral College has worked ever since day one, pretty much, is winner take all. That has been the case in all but 2 states. Nebraska's one, and I forget what the other one is. But in every other state, whatever presidential candidate wins the popular vote wins all of that state's electoral votes. That's the way it's done. Well, this is what the Republicans now say. You know, that's not really fair. We're going to change the way the states we control allocate the vote. And it's not going to be winner take all. It's going to be what's called proportional allocation. The key to the plan, however, get this, is the Republicans are only going to try to do this in states like Pennsylvania, where the state leans Democrat, but has Republican control at the state level. They're not going to try to put this proportional voting into all those southern states where we know those states vote for the Republican presidential candidate, and we know those states are under Republican control. Those are the red states. They're not going to try to do proportional in those states. No. They want to keep those winner take all, because that means their candidate in the next 2016 election will take all of those electoral votes, just as they always have. No, they're only going to target Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin, Florida, these states that, for some reason, elect Republicans to control their state and then turn around and vote for the Democratic president. So in those states, they're going to say, we want proportional allocation of our electoral votes. But, and here's where Josh Marshall makes clear, rather than go to the overall vote in the state, in other words, Obama wins, 1,700,000 votes. Romney got 1,500,000 votes. And that will be the way we will now apportion proportionately our electoral. No. They're going to do the allocation by congressional district. So in every congressional district, it will be determined what the percentage is. And electoral votes will then be allocated. Now, stop and think. Pennsylvania. Democrats in Pennsylvania are disproportionately concentrated in 2 places, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Republicans, on the other hand, are all over all those middle districts and up in the corners and even down in the corners. They're all over there. And because the Republican-controlled legislature has the ability to determine what those districts are, they have gerrymandered them, so much so that they can now hold on to a substantial House majority in Congress, even though they got fewer votes than Democrats did for the House. So right away, something's wrong here. Something is wrong. In other words, the new plan, their new idea of how to rig it, the new plan is to make the Electoral College as wired for Republicans as the House currently is. But only in the Democratic-leaning states, because in Republican states, just keep it winner take all. So in the Republican states, the Democrat wouldn't get 1 electoral vote. On the other hand, in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the winner wouldn't get all the electoral votes, and the Republican would get quite a few. In fact, it could well be, the way this works out, that the Republican losing Pennsylvania would still win more electoral votes than the Democrat who won the popular vote in Pennsylvania. Now, Josh Marshall says this all sounds pretty crazy, but it gets even crazier when you see the actual numbers. Okay, they are already pushing the bill to do this in the Virginia legislature. Now remember, Barack Obama won Virginia and got its 13 electoral votes. But if the Republicans in the Virginia House get this proportional thingamajiggy through, and if, let's say, that would have been in place in November when we had the election, Mitt Romney would have lost the state, because we know he lost the state. Mitt Romney would have, yes, lost the state, but he would have been given 9 electoral votes, with Obama getting 4. He would get more than twice as many electoral votes, which in the end are the only votes that count. And Obama would get 4. And Obama won Virginia. The same would happen here in Pennsylvania. Same kind of thing. I don't know if someone's done the math here. If you just take the numbers from the last election. But the Republicans have done the numbers. And if they can push this through all their Republican-controlled legislatures in Pennsylvania and in Michigan and in Wisconsin and in Virginia, then the next time there's a presidential election, even though the Democratic candidate wins, they'll lose. So, if that had been in place, just taking Virginia, Obama won it, but he would get 4 electoral votes to Romney, who lost its 9 electoral votes. So think of that. 2/3 of the electoral votes would go to the loser. If the Virginia plan had been in place across the country, as Republicans are now planning to do, Mitt Romney would have been elected president in November. Even though, as you know, he lost the popular vote by more than 5 million votes. Plans to do just that, to steal the election 4 years hence, are already underway in Virginia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and in Ohio, and some states in the Middle West. You don't think that would pass in Pennsylvania? You don't think Corbett would sign it? These are the guys who, as you know, you can recall, you can even have short-term memory loss and remember this. These are the ones who tried to rig this last presidential election by making it well nigh impossible for those Democratic urban voters to vote. And that was the way they tried to rig it this time around, through voter ID and other kinds of legislative efforts to depress the Democratic vote. Slimy campaign ads are one thing. That might be winning ugly. But something like this is corruptive. Corruptive and cynical and despicable. But then again, we're talking about the Republicans, to whom the adjective shameless almost always can apply. We are talking about Republicans who have been recently compared to a wounded animal. And as I remind you every once in a while, wounded animals are dangerous. We'll take a break. Be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Lynn Cullen Live and Panera Bread celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King.
President Johnson announced that Sunday, April 7th would be the day of national mourning. In the days following his assassination, tributes were paid by heads of state and world leaders. Pope Paul VI said that the cowardly and atrocious killing weighed on the conscience of mankind. Many wept when the tape of the last sermon King delivered at the Ebenezer Baptist Church was played during the service. The epitaph on the hastily carved marble tombstone was derived from the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, I'm free at last."
Countdown to King, brought to you by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health, and Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper is available now. Pick up one today for Mozart, Joy Ike, Mark Eddy, Black Veil Brides, and News of the Weird. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Today, My Care Navigator forwarded my medical records and freed my mind for other things.
Introducing My Care Navigator, your 24/7 healthcare co-pilot, new from Highmark.
My Care Navigator found me the ideal specialist. Less work for me.
My Care Navigator makes it easier to navigate the system. Call 1-888-BLUE-428 to connect with yours today. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
Well, now having perhaps concerned you, I think you should be concerned, and I think we need to, if our side doesn't really organize on this, we're out of our minds. A glimmer of good news. The Speaker of the House in Florida, in the Florida legislature, it's a Republican, of course. His name is something Weatherford. He was asked about this and whether or not Florida's legislature would be doing it. And he said this: to me, that's like saying in a football game, we should have only 3 quarters because we were winning after 3 quarters and they beat us in the 4th. I don't think we need to change the rules of the game. I think we need to get better. Well, that's one Republican who actually has a sense of honor. He sees it for what it is, and he obviously can't get on board. Thank God. Let's hope there are more of him. Chris has pointed out that it's been 2 years today that my former colleague in Pittsburgh talk radio king, Doug Hirth, died. 2 years. That's funny. I happened to drive by his near his home yesterday. And so he was on my mind yesterday. I remember the last time I saw him, I was driving him home. And I was thinking about him too. Chris says, I can't believe it's even been longer than 2 years since we last heard his voice. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Local radio in this town sucks. Well, that's sure true. We had so many characters that we were blessed to hear every day, and now we have none. Rest in peace, Doug. Hopefully you and Lawrence are having a great ongoing conversation. I'll hum throughout the day. Hello, I must be going. I came to say I cannot stay. I must be going. Oh, Doug. He was something. And Lawrence. He was something. It's interesting. I was at Costco about 3 days ago. I was checking out, and some beautiful woman, God, she was a pretty human being, with a net on her hair. So I could tell she worked there. She was probably in the kitchen. She came running over to me, and she said, Lynn, I just want to say how much I miss you and Doug and Phil. And she just went through the whole WTAE radio lineup. And she said, you guys, you changed my life. You always would say that was stupid and we weren't there to change anybody's life or politics. We were just talking and entertaining. And she said, but you changed mine. And I said, well, how did I do that? And she said, you got me to smoke pot. Oh, jeez. I said, oh, my God. I'm sorry. I said, that's not I don't think I want. She said, no. And you know what else you did? She said, you turned me around about public education. And I was not going to send my children to the public schools in Pittsburgh. And I did because you did and because you made sense to me about it. And I said, and how are they doing? I was scared to ask. I said, did it work out okay? And she said, they're both at Alderdice now, doing so well. And she said, it's just been wonderful. So, but, guys, I hear this all the time. We had such a great talk radio station there. And it was great because it wasn't in any way, shape, or form what current talk radio is. It wasn't at all. As the years went on, it got sort of pushed more and more in that way. But when we were just doing it locally here on our own, before all the big boys and the Rush Limbaughs started telling us how it was supposed to be done, when we were just doing it as we felt like you should do it, every show was different. Every personality was different. Nobody felt that they had to necessarily stake out a political point of view. If we had one, it would make itself apparent in the course of just doing the shows that we did. But it wasn't ugly. It was fun. And that's gone. The powers that be decided to take it away. And instead introduce this despicable, twice I've used that word today, format that now is just about the only format that you will find anywhere in this country on talk radio, and that is all conservative talk all the time, in your face, extreme, ugly. Its impact on our politics has been huge and destructive. Its impact on the electorate's understanding of issues and ability to engage in anything even resembling civil discourse is huge and destructive. I've said many times, Doug died because they wouldn't let him do his show anymore. That's all he ever wanted in life. Nothing made him happier. Just let me do my show. And they wouldn't because his show didn't fit anymore. It was this stupid show where he's talking about something, whatever, I don't know. One minute he's talking about his absurd lifestyle. The next minute he's telling you about his hemorrhoid operation, and 2 seconds later he is like encyclopediac on any popular culture subject from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, he was smart as hell, great interviewer, funny. God damn. Oh, well. You know, things change. Things change. Okay, back to, I just have this one other heads up about what some of the Republicans in the country are up to. You can't make this stuff up. I wouldn't have thought you could make the filibuster. I mean, the reapportionment of the electoral votes up. I didn't think you could do that, where they're so just open about it. Well, we didn't win, but we'll damn well win next time. Here's what we're going to do. It has nothing to do with... Isn't it amazing? It has nothing to do with appealing to the American people and saying, what is it you want, since we are here to represent you? No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with screwing around with the apparatus. It has nothing to do with what the people want. Screwing around with the apparatus of government so that they can maintain their stranglehold on our government. This is their vision of what their job is. Wow. Well, a very busy Republican lawmaker in New Mexico has introduced a bill that would require victims of rape to carry their pregnancies to term, or else be charged with a third-degree felony for tampering with evidence. Stop. Jess is looking at me like, are you kidding? Can you make this stuff up? House Bill 206, introduced by Republican Catherine Brown, would charge a rape victim who ended her pregnancy with a third-degree felony for tampering with the evidence. In other words, the fetus would not be available as evidence for the sexual assault trial. What? Third-degree felonies in New Mexico are, you can get 3 years in prison. Now, I don't think this is the kind of insanity emanating from this pathetic party that I don't think can pass. I don't think can pass constitutional muster, but that these people keep doing this kind of thing is unbelievable. And listen to this. I mean, it's as if, again, as if you've fallen down the rabbit hole. Here's what she says. The reason we need this bill is to strengthen the laws that deter sex offenders. By adding this law in New Mexico, we can help to protect women. What? By making them bear their rapist's child or else sending them to prison? So there's a bill that turns a victim of rape into potentially a felon and forces them into becoming incubators for the prosecution. Here's what one progressive said. Yes, according to Republican philosophy, victims who are legitimately raped will now have to carry the fetus to term in order to prove their case. There you go. Another attempt to criminalize a perfectly legal medical procedure because to abort a fetus conceived in rape would be to tamper with evidence. I wish you could make this stuff up. Somebody is. Chuck writes, Lynn, regarding your comments about the GOP becoming endangered, people who become Republican do so because at their core, they are opposed to change. They are traditionalists. And now they are being told by the electorate that if they don't change, they will become a footnote in history. I can't see people who are adverse to change actually changing. So the next best thing will be to change the rules or change the game. And that's why they are changing or trying to change electoral vote allocation. Don't you think that a change to the electoral vote distribution should be a referendum rather than something dictated from the governor? Well, I don't think it'd be dictated from the governor. The legislature would have to pass it. And then the governor, I'm not sure. Believe me, we'll be hearing more about this. Gee whiz. P.S. My daughter turns 21 in April. I'd like to introduce her to your son. Well, hey, Chuck. Nothing against your daughter, but you haven't even met my son, and he's not inclined to be set up. But isn't that amazing how old they've gotten? Gee whiz. Gee whiz. Okay, I know. I'm seeing it. I've been perfectly trained now by Chris Potter, right? Is it 22?
Yeah, it is.
I just know. It's in my bones now. I don't even have to look. I can feel it. It's time to take a break.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we've got a pep talk that can motivate you.
Sometimes things don't always turn out the way you want them to.
You can improve your future. Now get your game face on and take the first step towards a better life. Hurry up. Don't make me repeat myself.
Whatever level of motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Call 1-877-38-YOUR-GED or visit yourged.org for your pep talk and for free classes in your area. GED is a registered trademark of the American Council on Education. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Go to bergbargains.com for great deals on meals from your favorite local restaurants, museums, and shows. This week only, get discounts up to 20% on gift cards to Panera Bread. Supplies are limited. bergbargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. bergbargains.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, so apparently I'm... whoop. Hold that thought, Cullen. Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
It's PJ from Greensburg.
Hi, PJ.
Hey, I don't know. What do you do about the Republican legislature?
Well, the way it works is that, you have to knock the Republicans out one by one and put Democrats in.
Well, but here's the thing, is that they've gerrymandered it in such a way that you're never going to get enough Democratic votes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they've done that to all the congressional districts, but when you come down to state legislative districts, those I think are more available, maybe a few of them. I don't think we're even trying, is all I'm saying.
Well, no, we have to. It's funny because, well, it's not funny. It's ridiculous. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Well, the perfect what honked me off about what is another perfect example is when they had the referendum against Scott Walker in Wisconsin.
Right.
And Scott Walker's people realized that he wasn't going to be able to spend a lot of money. So they went and they found a loophole in the law that would allow him to spend the money to, put as much advertising in the media as possible to win that election. So he basically bought that election.
Well, that I hadn't heard, and I don't know. I mean, there was so much money thrown at that, the recall election.
Yeah, the recall election, and that's actually
there was so much.
There was a limit on the amount of money that they would be allowed to spend. The governor would be allowed to spend, but somewhere, because it was a recall or something, there was some little flaw they found in the law, and they were able to spend as much money as they wanted.
Well, but I think this is what they're very good at. They're good at working systems.
Yeah, they're good at cheating. It may be lawful, but it's not right. It's not ethical.
No.
It astounds me, and I mean, unless I say about the Republicans, they need to, if they want to start getting Democratic votes, if they want to start getting a larger amount of votes than the portion they're getting now, which is dying off, they need to read the book. Everything I need to know, I learned in kindergarten. Because it's not a coincidence that the majority of votes for Democrats come from highly populated areas. And it's because we know what we need to do to get along with other people. Mm-hmm. And when you have a population that's this large and increasingly growing by leaps and bounds, you need to get along with other people,
Yeah, and you need to get along with people who look different and act different and have different cultures and customs. And, when you live in an urban setting, you're going to have be comfortable with diversity and difference. And Republicans increasingly move themselves into white enclaves in suburbia or in rural areas, and or certainly even in urban settings will self-segregate themselves as much as possible just by socioeconomic status, and how you're able to live. But still, if you live in a city, you do rub elbows with just about everybody.
Oh, you have no choice but to learn how to get along with any kind of difference, ethnic, sexual, anything.
Right.
You have to know how to get along, and they just don't know how to do it. I mean, they're living out in the outside of urban areas, and that's why they want guns. They're out there in their enclaves, like you said, or in their little house, and they want a gun. They've isolated themselves, and you can't live around 6 million people like Manhattan and have everybody packing a gun with as many differences as there are. It's ridiculous.
Well,
I got to sit in with Doug Hurth in the studio right before he went off the air.
You did?
Yeah, he was doing those Fridays with Doug.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an amazing thing to see him at work behind the mic. It was just, so okay, Lynn,
the intensity. Thank you, PJ. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, I think again, wanting guns is also a sign of fear. Not wanting change is a sign of fear. Not wanting. I mean, change is pretty much hard for everybody. Very few people embrace it. But some people are literally terrified of it, and they tend to stand in the way, and those people tend to be Republicans. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Lynn. I'm really enjoying your show today.
Thank you.
Two quick things. Thanks for mentioning Doug. Radio is so boring today. It's just unbelievable, and I'm a radio nut going back my entire life. The other thing, in talking about the Republicans, what people need to realize is that these people don't want to govern. They want to rule. And if you look at what they do, this is all about ruling. Mm-hmm. It's not about governing. Mm-hmm. And they're, and I hate to split hairs, but that's really, to me, that's really what it's all about. They want to rule you. They want to tell you what to do according to what their beliefs are, not govern and do what's best for everybody.
Well, I think that's beautifully stated. Thank you. That is so true.
Thank you, and
thank you.
Keep up the work.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't believe in governing because they don't believe in government. They do believe in power. And yes, they do believe in rule. God. Hello, caller.
How you doing, Lynn?
Hi, I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't want to change the subject too much, but I was reading an article about a man, a 66-year-old, works in Fresno, California. He works for a Pacific Gas and Electric Company. He's a meter reader, and he's going to lose his job because of technology, and all that. And I'm reading it, and I'm astounded by what I saw. The man makes $67,000 a year reading meters, and I wonder why my gas bill's so damn high. And I'm not a person that, begrudge anybody that has a good-paying job, but I bet you it's hard-pressed to find a school teacher that makes that, or somebody with an education. But that's the kind of system we have. When you have a free enterprise, it's out of whack, the wages. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Here's what happens. I don't know that a man who's worked, I mean, you figure if he's done that work, he's 66, he wasn't making that wage all the time, that he's topped out. It's another reason they want to get rid of people. But $67,000 is a good wage. That's a living wage. That's a middle-class wage. And the thing is middle-class wages was what most people had in the 50s and the 60s. There was more of a contract between employers and workers that, the wealth would be equitably shared, that if you did a job for me, reading meters, whatever, I would pay you a living wage. We have, in the last 20, 30 years, fallen so under the thrall of this conservative philosophy that you keep cutting workers. Workers are considered like fat, right? You cut as much as you can, and then you force the terrified ones that remain to work twice as hard for half the pay. Very few of us have escaped that reality. I have not. I have a graph of my, if I were to graph my income, it peaked in about 1990. Okay? Then it took quite a bit of a dive, but that was my choice when I adopted my son and dropped out of television. And then it was fine, I was fine, and then talk radio, right? And I would get, every time a station changed a format, I would get another job, and they knew they had me. They knew there was no other place in town. They knew I was here, I was in Pittsburgh. And so my pay kept getting reduced and reduced and reduced. So that what I had been doing always for, let's say, this much money, I was now doing for less than half of that. That has happened to me. That has happened to workers in all kinds of industries. And let us recall, it's not because money is not being generated. It's not because the people who employ the workers are not making money. They're just keeping it. They don't subscribe anymore to the idea that they think, like the Republicans do, that I built it myself. They sit astride their big buildings in the top corner office and feel like they did it all themselves. All the peons, all the workers who actually produce, they're bothersome to these people. They don't like acknowledging them. And they sure as hell don't like paying them a fair share. So, caller, here's what I'm going to say to you. A guy who's 66, who's worked for Pacific Gas and Electric, maybe all his life, reading meters and whatever and been a good employee, if he retires, if the last thing he gets is $66,000, I'm not begrudging him that. I will not. Because there's no way that Americans should have to live on a $25,000 income or even a $30,000 income, because those incomes are not middle-class incomes anymore. The way the conservatives and the greedy capitalists that have taken over have messed with our minds about what we should expect or what we are owed, so that it sets worker against worker. I'm not making as much as that meter reader now, nowhere near it now. But I don't begrudge him that. I should be making more. Jess should be making more. Almost everybody I know in the workaday world is not being properly paid. Now, if you hang around with the management types, odds are they're getting paid. But not everybody wearing a white shirt and a tie is getting paid anymore. People are scrambling. People are scared. And them that's got keeps giving themselves more and giving the workers the shaft. There's a reason that there are fewer unions and their union membership is down. It's one of the reasons your wages are down. I don't know. Don't want to even get on a diatribe about it. Disgusting. I'm sorry to hear about, I react that way too. Oh, the bus driver's getting what? Well, when did we start begrudging people? What did a steel worker used to make? I mean, people worked hard. Those jobs didn't require college educations, and they were compensated for hard work. And their children had a home and a future, and things were possible, and there were opportunities. That's the way, I thought that's what America was about. And now it's about really squeezing the little people, pushing them down, not lifting them up. You can't have a representative republic with this kind of economic system running wild. You cannot. It'll destroy us. It corrupts us. It's corrupted our government, who now services them that's got more than them that needs help, that need help. Things are a whack. Things are out of sorts. Hey, you might have heard that this big gun show planned in Harrisburg has been canceled. It's canceled because they told all their vendors that they did not want any semi-automatic and automatic or any assault weapons at the show. This was in deference to what happened in Sandy Hook. And so you know what happened to this apparently huge event? Outdoors, sports and outdoors show. A massive exhibition of some 1,200 dealers. They said they didn't want military-style semi-automatic rifles at the event. And guess what happened? An immediate revolt by the vendors who said, then we ain't coming. The revolt by the vendors included just about anybody you can think of. Bass Pro Shop, Sportsman's Liquidation, Thermacell, Unified Sportsman of Pennsylvania, Comcast? That's what I thought. Why the hell is Comcast pulling out? Comcast wants semi-automatic... what is that about? Comcast was offended. Pennsylvania Independent Oil and Gas Association. They're out. The Outdoors Channel's out. The National Wild Turkey Federation's out. They're all out. Cabela. Due to recent changes, Cabela's will no longer sponsor this year's event. Well, this is the time when people... I'm a Comcast customer. I got to let them know that I am most unhappy and considering boycotting them in turn. And those of you who, maybe shop at Cabela for some reason, might want to not do that. Because they boycott all the time. They shut anybody who dares to do something like this. Anyway, there you have it. Shameless to the end, to the death. That's the other side, guys. And do not in any way underestimate them. Well, it's been a pleasure for me to be speaking with you today. I'm looking at looks like a very snowy day starting up. Careful out there and enjoy your weekend. And I will talk again to you, I hope, on Monday.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.